What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. So today's video is going to be my fourth video in the series, How to Become a Better Writer for Your English Literature class. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the editing process. And I'm going to give you 5 tips about things that you should think about when you're finished with your essay and you're going to be rereading it to make it better and stronger for your reader. So let's go on with the video. All right, so you finished your essay for your English class. You figured out what your thesis is, your quotes, your evidence, and you've analyzed it. But you are not done yet. You've only begun the process. You've created your body, which is the essay, but now you need to go in, reread it, and refine that essay. You need to go in and clean up any mistakes or anything that seems unclear to your reader. So let's look at tip number 1 for the editing process. All right, so tip number 1 is to reread your essay out loud, either to yourself or to a friend, so that you can hear what you have written and if it makes sense. So oftentimes when you reread your essay, you start to see that things are not as clear as they can be. You will start to see that some of your sentences don't make sense, or you need to add more details to make it clearer for the reader. So I want you to ask yourself, while you are reading your essay, do I need to make this sentence more clear? Does this sentence flow? Does this sentence make sense to me? Then, should I break up my sentences to create a shorter but clearer sentence? Oftentimes, as writers, we're in that flow, we're in that motion when we're writing, we're feeling it. We have our evidence, we know what our analysis is, and sometimes our brain is running faster than our fingers can type, and we miss things. And it seems to be clear to us who is writing, but then when you read it to somebody else, or you take a step back and you read it from an outside perspective, you'll start to see that this is not very clear and I do need to clean things up. So that's what I want you to do when you're doing the editing process. I want you to read your essay from an outside perspective. Does it make sense? Oftentimes what you will have to do is take your really long, rambly sentence and break it up to make a clearer but shorter sentence. If you can have another editor, like a friend or a family member, that would be great, because it truly brings the outsider's perspective on your writing. Because remember, I always tell you to write as if the reader has no idea about the story or the book that you are writing about. Of course, your teacher has read this book and knows what you're writing about, but if you ask a friend that's not in your class or a family member, then it will really show if your thesis and your explanations are clear. So ask them to go over it and just highlight different sections that are unclear to them. If you don't have this available to you, then I want you to really concentrate and be honest with yourselves if your sentences make sense or if they seem a bit confusing. Tip number 2 while editing is to take out any informal words or contractions. So this might be a typo, or you might be just typing too fast, and this is what you're used to doing because it is text speak. But you want to get rid of any contractions, anything that has can't, won't, don't, wouldn't, anything that's a contraction. We speak this way normally, but that is not how you were writing for a formal essay. Also, take out any words that are gonna, wanna, kinda, have to, and a common mistake that people make is could've and should've. The correct form is could have and should have. A lot of people make this mistake because we hear it as though it's being said could've, but it's not of, it's have. So just while you are rereading your paper, you can highlight it and change it later, or do it right on the spot. In addition, any words that seem too informal or casual, you want to swap that out for a more formal and essay appropriate word. So for example, if you're saying show, maybe you want to change that word to illustrate or demonstrate. Tip number 3 is to check for run-on sentences. Now, teachers hate run-on sentences. It's jumbly, it's grumbly. That's why I have this picture here of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That's what it sounds like when we're reading. If you read your sentence out loud and you're running out of breath, then chances are you do need to put a period. This comes with editing and looking at if your sentences make sense. Also, is it a run-on sentence? Is your sentence extremely long where the reader is running out of breath when they're reading it? So read things out loud and look if it's so long that you would naturally need a pause. And then take that extremely long sentence and just break it up into several clear and shorter sentences. Tip number 4 is to use a thesaurus. So use a thesaurus to find other words that can express the words that you are constantly using. If you notice that you are overusing a word and you're saying it again and again and again, take out that thesaurus, or you can go to thesaurus.com and find other synonyms for the words that you are constantly using. So let's look at this tip right over here. And it says, using the same word over and over is repetitive and boring for the reader. Find other ways and words to explain the same thing. If you give more words, then it gives your essay more variety and more interest for the reader. The reader doesn't want to read the same word over and over and over. By the end, they'll say, I get it. I got it. I got it. You're saying this word over and over. But if you take out that thesaurus and find synonyms, then it gives it some variety and some nuance. Tip number 5 is to use transition words to help your essay flow nicely from idea to idea. You don't want to have an essay that's very clunky and bumpy. You want the words to flow on paper like butter into your reader's ears. Now, I don't know how you're going to achieve that, but I think if you add some transition words, it will flow and it will sound very good. So if you're having some variety in vocabulary by using a thesaurus and then implementing different transition words, you are going to have a stronger essay overall. I put a little chart right over here of different transition words. Different words for emphasis, addition, contrast, order. You don't want to have the same transition words over and over. You don't want to have and. You can have in addition, additionally, furthermore, as well as, right? You want to give some variety in your transition words. And there's so many transition words out there, and I'm going to do a whole other video on that. But these are just a couple over here that talk about emphasis, addition, contrast, order. Like, check them out, take a screenshot, use them in your next essay. My point is, as you are editing, you want to read for flow. Does your essay flow nicely from idea to idea? Are you using a transition word that helps your ideas flow from one to the other? Then, are you adding different vocabulary words, or are you constantly using the same ones over and over? If you notice that you're using the same ones over and over, go pick up that thesaurus to add different vocabulary words. Then you're going to listen to yourself read the essay for content. Does it make sense? Am I conveying my ideas clearly to the reader? Do I need to break up the sentences and make it more clear since the reader has not read the story that I've been talking about? And lastly, do you prove your thesis? Well, guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope this editing process was helpful, and I hope that you start to think about these 5 different things when you're going over the editing process. I hope you're staying sane and safe, and don't forget, peace, love, and essays. Bye.